Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriya. Nashtiprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, the Atrocities of King Kansa, text number 18 onwards. So yesterday we studied how Kansa tried to kill the baby girl. Devaki tried to stop him, but he won't stop. And the baby girl took the form of Mother Durga, went up in the sky and told Kansa that, you fool, the one you wanted to kill has already taken birth somewhere. Now Kansa got afraid, he was astonished, so he opened up the shackles of Devaki and Vasudeva, and now he's trying to please Mother Devaki and Vasudeva. Text 18. Now he gives the philosophy for 4 or 5 verses, and very high philosophy, just like in Bhagavad Gita. But the problem with this philosophy is, when these demons speak Shastras, they have no intention of following whatever they're speaking. That's the problem. Let's listen to what he says first. Ma shochitam mahabhaga atmajan swakritam puja janto nasadai katra deva dhinas tadasate. O great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. All living entities are under the control of the Supreme, and they cannot always live together. Kansa addressed his sister and brother-in-law as Mahabhaga because although he killed their ordinary children, the goddess Durga took birth from them. Because Devaki bore Durga Devi in her womb, Kansa praised both Devaki and her husband. Asuras are very devoted to the goddess Durga, Kali, and so forth. Kansa, therefore, truly astonished, appreciated the exalted position of his sister and brother-in-law. Durga is certainly not under the laws of nature because she herself is a controller of the laws of nature. Ordinary living beings, however, are controlled by these laws. Prakriti kriyamanani. Consequently, none of us are allowed to live together for any long period. By speaking in this way, Kansa tried to pacify his sister and brother-in-law. So, he's saying all living entities are under the control of the Supreme, but doesn't it apply to you also? Why did you kill so many children, 6 children? And why did you put Devaki and Vasudeva in the prison house? If you think like that, all living entities are under control of the Supreme. He should have lived like, okay, if he wants to kill me, he will kill me. I'll do the right thing. But no. So these parts we have to understand. Like Hiranyakashipu also, when we studied that, he also spoke big philosophy, but he would not understand Vishnu is the Supreme. So this part we have to understand and implement in our lives, that we don't just speak the philosophy, we have to live the philosophy. And then when we preach, it will have effects. Otherwise, we try to preach to others, but first of all, we have no intention of following it, or we are not able to follow it. Even if we are true to that I'm not being able to follow, but I want to follow, but you follow. At least we are truthful, because whatever words, the words of preaching comes out of our mouth, they are again non-different from Krishna. So Krishna knows what's in our heart. That is why when Prabhupada preached, just imagine, Prabhupada was 70 years old, a Bengali Vaishnava, coming from Bengal. Bengali accent, if you listen to his lectures, he had command on English, but not the way Americans had, not the way Europeans had. He didn't know their accent, the way they speak. But when he spoke, because of so much of purity and the mood of compassion of their mood of really uplifting those souls was there, it had effect. It transformed the lives of thousands of people when he was here on this planet. Not just Indians. He preached to Americans, Europeans, Africans, everywhere, Russians. Everywhere he preached. And the words had effect because he himself was following that, and in his heart there was no ulterior motive. Here, Kansa has ulterior motive. He's afraid. He's afraid. Somehow he wants to live. But this is not the right mode of preaching. Philosophy can come out from the mouth of Kansa. It came out from the mouth of Hiranyakashipu also. But it's not worth it. That's why again and again it comes. We have to purify ourselves. Now, purification is what? Purification of our consciousness, purification of our thought process, purification of our activities. It's not like by preaching this philosophy, we try to get money out of the people we are talking to, and then we can either make big temples so I'll be glorified, or we do a wonderful other big project so I'll be glorified. And in the heart, I want glorification, but outwardly I say, oh, I'm doing it for Krishna, I'm doing it for Prabhupada. Krishna knows everything. How can we hide anything from him? And moreover, the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never said open big temples for me. Krishna said preach this message to others. So opening of big temples is not wrong. Prabhupada opened many big temples. But the motive should be to transform the hearts, transform the lives of others. And even if we cannot, at least we work on that. That's all. So again, Kansa is speaking big philosophy, but he himself is not following. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yanti apiyanti cha nayam atma tathaiteshu viparayeti yathava bhu. In this world, we can see that parts, dolls, and other products of the earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Na hanyate hanyamane sharite. Then why did you kill the babies of Devaki? Although Kansa is described as a demon, he had good knowledge of the affairs of Atma Tattva, the truth of the self. 5,000 years ago, there were kings like Kansa, who was described as an asura, but he was better than modern politicians and diplomats who have no knowledge about Atma Tattva. As stated in the Vedas, asango hi ayam purusha. The spirit soul has no connection with the changes of the material body. The body undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, sustenance, byproducts, dwindling, and then annihilation. But the soul undergoes no such changes. Even after the annihilation of a particular bodily form, the original source of the bodily elements does not change. The living entity enjoys the material body, which appears and disappears. But the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, remain the same. The example given here is that parts and dolls are produced from the earth, and when broken or destroyed, they mingle with the original ingredients. In any case, the source of supply remains the same. As already discussed, the body is made according to the desires of the soul. The soul desires and thus the body is formed. Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara Sarva Bhutana, Sudeshe Arjun Tishtati. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, Arjun, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, so seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Neither the super soul, Paramatma, nor the individual soul changes its original spiritual identity. The Atma does not undergo birth, death, or changes like the body. Therefore, a Vedic aphorism says, Asango hi ayam purusha. Although the soul is conditioned within this material world, he has no connections with the changes of the material body. So we have studied this many, many times in Bhagavad Gita. The body is changed, soul remains the same, and the ingredients of the body, when the soul leaves the body, they just mix with the source of the ingredients. Yathanevam vido bhedo yat atma viparyaya dehi yoga viyogo cha samsritir na nivartate. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. See, same thing. He should apply this on himself first. It's not just, oh, it's for you only, it's not for me. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai Punsam Paro Dharma. The word Dharma means engagement. One who is engaged in the service of the Lord without impediment and without cessation is understood to be situated in his original spiritual status. When one is promoted to this status, one is always happy in transcendental bliss. Otherwise, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one must suffer material conditions. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. The body is subject to its own principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. But one who is situated in spiritual life, Yato Bhaktiradhokshate, has no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. One may argue that we may see a person who is spiritually engaged 24 hours a day, but is still suffering from diseases. In fact, however, he is neither suffering nor diseased. Otherwise, he could not be engaged 24 hours a day in spiritual activities. Example may be given in this connection that sometimes dirty foam or garbage is seen floating on the water of the Ganges. This is called Nir Dharma, a function of the water. But one who goes to the Ganges does not mind the foam and dirty things floating in the water. With his hand, he pushes away such nasty things, bathes in the Ganges, and gains the beneficial results. So one who is engaged in the spiritual activities, his body might be suffering or disease, but soul-wise he is not suffering, body might be diseased. The two different things. Therefore, one who is situated in the spiritual status of life is unaffected by foam and garbage or any superficial dirty things. This is confirmed by Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya hareradasya. A person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, and words is a liberated person, even within the material world. Therefore, one is forbidden to regard the Guru as an ordinary human being. The spiritual master or Acharya is always situated in the spiritual status of life. Birth, death, old age, and disease do not affect him. According to the Hari Bhakti Vilas, therefore, after the disappearance of an Acharya, his body is never burnt to ashes, for it is spiritual body. The spiritual body is always unaffected by material conditions. So that's why we have the Samadhis for the Acharyas, because they are not material. We burn or we do the cremation or we bury the bodies of conditioned living entities because they don't want any connection with the body anymore after they leave the body. They should be completely detached so they can move on. But the Acharyas have already have no connection, no attachment with the body, first of all. And the body is spiritual, so it's not supposed to burn or cremate the spiritual body. So they put in samadhi. So even when they are in the samadhi, when we can still go and take blessings from that, even after they have apparently left the place. But there is, if you go to south, Sri Rangam temple, there is samadhi of Ramanujacharya, and in his body, there's still the nails and the hair of that body that grow. I don't know about the hair, but nails definitely grow of Ramanujacharya's body. He's in samadhi over there. So that's a beauty of spiritual life or spiritual progress. Tasmat bhadre swatanayan maya vyapatitanapi manushochayatah sarva swakritam vindate avashaha. My dear sister Devaki, all good fortune unto you. Everyone suffers and enjoys the results of his own work under the control of providence. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, please do not lament for them. As stated in Brahma Sahita, Yastvendra Gopam Athavendram. Everyone beginning from the small insect known as Indragopa up to Indra, the king of the heavenly planets, is obliged to undergo the results of his fruitive activities. We may superficially see that one is suffering or enjoying because of some external causes, but the real cause is one's own fruitive activities. Even when someone kills someone, it is to be understood that the person who was killed met the fruitive results of his own work, and that the man who killed him acted as an agent of material nature. Thus, Kansa begged Devaki's pardon by analyzing the matter deeply. He was not the cause of the death of Devaki's sons. Rather, this was their own destiny. Under the circumstances, Devaki should excuse Kansa and forget his past deeds without lamentation. Kansa admitted his own fault, but whatever he had done was under the control of providence. Kansa might have been the immediate cause for the death of Devaki's sons, but the remote cause was their past deeds. So this was an actual fact. Nobody is denying that. But Kansa was not acting as a messenger of Yamaraj. He was acting for his own sense gratification. He wanted to protect himself. That's why he killed Devaki's sons. And see, we can speak big philosophy. Just like if I do some harm to somebody else and I say, oh, it was your karma, it was for your purification, this happened. But I still get to deal with that karma that I have created for myself. I'm not supposed to play politics with somebody, or I'm not supposed to commit offenses or do any nonsense with anybody. So I'll suffer my own karma whenever it comes back to me. But this we don't understand when we are committing this kind of offense. So one has to be very, very careful. That's all. Yavad dhatovasmi hantasmi tyatmanam manyate asvidrik tavat tad abhimanyagyo badhya badhakamitam. In the bodily conception of life, one remains in darkness without self-realization, thinking I am being killed or I have killed many enemies. As long as a foolish person thus considers himself to be the killer of the killed, he continues to be responsible for material obligations, and consequently he suffers the reactions of happiness and distress. By the grace of the Lord, Kansa felt sincere regret for having unnecessarily persecuted such Vaishnavas as Devaki and Vasudeva. And thus he came to the transcendental stage of knowledge. Because I am situated on the platform of knowledge, Kansa said, understanding that I am not at all the killer of your sons. I have no responsibility for their death. As long as I thought I would be killed by your son, I was in ignorance, but now I am free of this ignorance, which was due to the worldly conception of life. So maybe momentally he was out, but as soon as he comes in the association with his demoniac ministers, he'll again take up those activities. So one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. So this was okay for Arjun. When Krishna gave the message to Arjun of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjun understood, he realized, and then he fought the war. He also killed. He killed many, many people, many more than what Kansa did. But he was not implicated because in his consciousness he was pure. He was doing it as a service to Krishna, not for his own sense gratification. There's a difference. Difference in killing also. Duryodhana was also killing on the other side, but he was doing it for himself. According to this axiomatic truth, Kansa pleaded that he was not responsible for having killed the sons of Devaki and Vasudeva. Please try to excuse me for such false external activities, he said, and be pacified with the same knowledge. So what is Devaki and Vasudeva going to do? Obviously, they're going to pardon him. Shamadvamam dauratmyam sadho dinavatsala iti yuktva shrumukha pado shala swasroratha grahit. Kansa begged, my dear sister and brother-in-law, please be merciful to such a poor-hearted person as me. Since both of you are saintly persons, please excuse my atrocities. Having said this, Kansa fell at the feet of Vasudeva and Devaki, his eyes full of tears of regret. Although Kansa had spoken very nicely on the subject of real knowledge, his past deeds were abominable and atrocious, and therefore he further begged forgiveness from his sister and brother-in-law by falling at their feet and admitting that he was a most sinful person. So again, when we feel repentant about something that we have done in the past, the repentance doesn't mean just a lip service. That also means we make a commitment that we'll not repeat it in the future. Then we are repenting. And then we can be excused also. Krishna can excuse somebody. He says, Sarva dharman pariteja mam ekam sharanam vraja antam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami ma shucha. I'll relieve you of all the sinful reactions. Do not worry. But can we cheat Krishna? He wants to say, Sarva dharman pariteja mam ekam sharanam vraja first. What does that mean? That means we are going to abide by the instructions of Krishna forever. No more deviations. He wants to see that. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, they are more merciful, much, much, much more merciful. And they want to absolve us of all the sins, everything, all the nonsense that we have done in the past, and we can't even think of doing so many sinful activities in the future that they are ready to forgive. Just chant this way. That's mercy. That is real mercy. That's why Rupa Goswami says, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Premdayate. You're the most magnificent incarnation. Most magnificent. Why? First of all, he knows people of Kali Yuga. At least Kansa was in Dwapara Yuga. But we in Kali Yuga, we don't even know this kind of philosophy what Kansa was speaking. And then secondly, he is Krishna himself, but with the mood of Srimati Radharani. Krishna himself, in his mood, he said, Sarva Dharman Prateja. But when he comes in the mood of Radharani, Radharani is much more merciful. So she couldn't even see the suffering of us. And that too, Mahaprabhu, when he came, it was, Kali Yuga was still better. Now it is even worse. She could not see the suffering that time. So then it's okay, 10,000 years, I am blessing, just chant. That's all. Prabhupada was even more much. Mahaprabhu says 64 rounds every day. Prabhupada said, okay, just chant 16 rounds every day. That's it. That is mercy, nothing but mercy. We are not qualified. All we need to do is chant and beg for the mercy of Prabhupada, of Acharyas, Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Radha Krishna. That's it. So, yeah, coming back to Kansa. So he is repenting and he is admitting he was the most sinful person. Mochyamas Nigadada Vishramba Kanyakagira Devakim Vasudevam Cha Darshan Atma Sotradam. Fully believing in the words of the goddess Durga, Kansa exhibited his familial affection for Devaki and Vasudeva by immediately releasing them from their iron shackles. Bhratusam anutaptasya kshantarosha cha Devaki vyasrijad Vasudevascha prahasyatam uvachaha. When Devaki saw her brother actually repentant while explaining ordained defense, she was relieved of all anger. Why? Because she is mother of Krishna. She has all the qualities that one can expect to be in the mother of Krishna, mother of Supreme Personality of God. We get some deities at home and we try to serve them and try to cultivate the qualities of a devotee. So we can understand what could be the qualities in the personal mother of Krishna. Can't even imagine. So they forgave him. Smiling, he spoke to Kansa as follows. Devaki and Vasudeva, both highly elevated personalities, accepted the truth presented by Kansa, that everything was ordained by providence. According to the prophecy, Kansa would be killed by the eighth child of Devaki. Therefore, Vasudeva and Devaki saw that behind all these incidents was a great plan devised by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the Lord had already taken birth, just like a human child, and was in the safe custody of Yashoda, everything was happening according to plan, and there was no need to continue their ill feeling towards Kansa. Thus, they accepted Kansa's words. Moreover, they didn't want to give away the location of Krishna to Kansa in any way. So they just went along with Kansa's words. Evam etan mahabhaga yathavadasi dehinam ajnana prabhavahandi swapareti vidayataha. O great personality, Kansa, only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. Everything is done automatically by the laws of nature, which work under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no question of doing anything independently. For one who has put himself in this material atmosphere is fully under the control of nature's laws. Our main business, therefore, should be to get out of this conditioned life and again become situated in spiritual existence. Only due to ignorance does a person think, I'm a demigod, I'm a human being, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. Or when the ignorance is still further advanced, he says, I'm God. Unless one is fully self-realized, one's life of ignorance will continue. So this is because Devaki and Vasudeva, they are spiritually very elevated. They are associates of the Lord. So they first of all understood the philosophy and they forgave him. Shoka harsha bhaya dvesha loba moha madanvitah mitho ganantam na pashyanti bhavera bhavam prathak drishaha. Persons with the vision of differentiation are imbued with the material qualities of lamentation, jubilation, fear, envy, greed, illusion, and madness. They are influenced by the immediate cause, which they are busy counteracting because they have no knowledge of the remote supreme cause, the personality of Godhead. So we all are busy counteracting the immediate causes. Krishna is the cause of all causes, but one who has no connection with Krishna is disturbed by immediate causes and cannot restrain his vision of separation or differences. When an expert physician treats a patient, he tries to find the original cause of the disease and is not diverted by the symptoms of that original cause. Similarly, a devotee is never disturbed by reverses in life. Wow. Devotee is never disturbed by reverses in life. Tatyanukampam susamikshimana. A devotee understands that when he is in distress, this is due to his own past misdeeds, which are now accruing reactions. Although by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these are only very slight reactions. Because those who are engaged in devotional service to the Lord, the reactions are decreased or even minimized by the mercy of Krishna. Karmani nirdahati kintuja bhakti bhaja. When a devotee under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is to suffer because of faults in his past deeds, he passes through only a little misery by the grace of the Lord. Although the disease of a devotee is due to mistakes committed sometimes in the past, he agrees to suffer and tolerate such miseries, and he depends fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a thought process of a devotee. And when that shloka, Prabhupada has quoted that shloka many, many times, and he'll continue to quote it, Tatyanukampam susamikshimano. So it says, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and still offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body. What happens to him? He is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So even if Krishna gets obliged, what kind of devotee is this? What kind of person is this? Because Krishna wants to see him fully surrender. That's all. Give up everything else. Give up thinking of any other shelter. Just come to me. I will take care of you. And he has taken care of devotees in the past. He does take care of even presently. And he will take care of devotees in the future. We just have to have that faith. Firm faith. From the level of Shraddha to Nishtha. And even beyond. Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, Prem. Thus, he is never affected by material conditions of lamentation, jubilation, fear, and so on. A devotee never sees anything to be unconnected with the Supreme Personality of God. Srila Madhvacharya, quoting from the Bhavishya Puran, says, Bhagavad Darshanadhyasya Virodha Darshanam Prithak. Prithak Drishti Sa Vigyayo Natu Sad Bheda Darshana. So, devotee doesn't see anything separate from Krishna. Shri Shukavacha, Kansa eva prasannabhyam vishuddham pratibhashita devaki vasudevabhyam anugyato avishad griham. Shukdev Goswami continued. Thus, having been addressed in purity by Devaki and Vasudeva, who were very much appeased, Kansa felt pleased, and with their permission, he entered his home. Tasyam ratyam vatitayam Kansa ahyuya mantrina debhya chashta tatsarvam yaduktam yog nidriyayam. After that night passed, Kansa summoned his ministers and informed them of all that had been spoken by Yogamaya, who had revealed that he who was to slay Kansa had already been born somewhere else. The Vedic scriptures, Chandi describes Maya, the energy of the Supreme Lord, as Nidra. Durga Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Nidra Rupena Samastita. The energy of Yogamaya and Mahamaya keeps a living entity sleeping in this material world in the great darkness of ignorance. Yogamaya, the goddess Durga, kept Kansa in darkness about Krishna's birth and misled him to believe that his enemy Krishna had been born somewhere else. Krishna was born the son of Devaki, but according to the Lord's original plan, as prophesied to Brahma, he went to Vrindavan to give pleasure to Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and other intimate friends and devotees for 11 years. Then he would return to kill Kansa. Because Kansa did not know this, he believed Yogamaya's statement that Krishna was born elsewhere, not of Devaki. So Yogamaya, or even Mahamaya, they create this ignorance. Mahamaya works on the conditioned living entities. Yogamaya works on liberated entities. Akarnyam bhartur gatitam tamochur dev shatravaha devan pratikrita marsham date anatiko vida. After hearing the master's statement, the envious asuras, who were enemies of the demigods and were not very expert in their dealings, advised Kansa as follows. See, if we take association or advice from wrong people, our activities will be wrong. There are two different types of men, the asuras and the suras. Those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, asuras, devas, whereas those who are opposed to the devotees are called asuras. Devotees are expert in all transactions. Therefore, they're called Kovid, which means expert. Asuras, however, although superficially showing expertise in passionate activities, are actually all fools. They are neither sober nor expert. Whatever they do is imperfect. Mogasha moga karmana. According to this description of the asuras given in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever they do will ultimately be bad. It was such persons who advised Kansa because they were his chief friends and ministers. So those imperfect people who have those four defects of every conditioned living entity, one is cheating, illusioned, commits mistakes and imperfect senses. So those people, when they advise another conditioned living entity, what in the world will be the result? It will be chaos. And this is what is happening everywhere. The leaders of the different countries or different states, they are not themselves devotees and they don't have devotees guiding them. So that is why we see the problems everywhere. Evam chetarhi bhojendra Uragrama vrajadeshu anirdashansha anishyamo adya shishun. If this is so, O king of the Bhoja dynasty, beginning today, we shall kill all the children born in all the villages, towns, and pasturing grounds within the past 10 days or slightly more. Yogamaya, when she took the form of Durga, she told you stop killing these children unnecessarily. The one who was going to kill you has taken birth already somewhere else. So that just happened, right? So next morning, he had that meeting. Now they are saying, okay, even if the baby is born, you cannot be more than 10 days old, let's kill all the babies. Instead of that, Kansa, yes, you did the right thing by asking for forgiveness from Devaki and Vasudev. Let's not do all these nonsense things. Let's not kill all the babies. Yeah, Durga ji has already warned you. But no, let's kill all the babies. So then the baby that was supposed to kill you, he will also be dead, and then you will live forever, as if that is possible. Kimudyamah karishyanti deva samarabhitavah nityam udvigna manaso jaghoshar dhanushastava. The demigods always fear the sound of your bowstring. They're constantly in anxiety, afraid of fighting. Therefore, what can they do by their endeavors to harm you? Asyataste sharvrater hanyamana samantata jijivisha utsrijya palayan parayayo. The demigods always fear the sound of your bowstring. Okay, I'm sorry. Next one. While being pierced by your arrows, which you discharge on all sides, some of them who were injured by the multitude of arrows but who desired to live fled the battlefield intent on escaping. So they are saying, who can face you? Nobody can. Kechit vranjala yodina nyasta shastra divokasaha mukta kachika kechit bhitasma iti vadina. Defeated and bereft of all weapons, some of the demigods gave up fighting and praised you with folded hands, and some of them appearing before you with loosened garments and hair said, "Oh Lord, we are very much afraid of you." Natvam vismrita shastrastram virathan samvritam hanseyan yasakta vimukhan bhagna chapan ayudhyata. When the demigods are bereft of their chariots, when they forget how to use weapons, when they're fearful or attached to something other than fighting, or when their own bows are broken and they have thus lost the ability to fight, your majesty does not kill them. See, you're so nice, so good at heart. There are principles that govern even fighting. If an enemy has no chariot, is unmindful of the fighting art because of fear, or is unwilling to fight, he is not to be killed. Kansa's ministers reminded Kansa that despite his power, he was cognizant of the principles of fighting, and that he therefore had excused the demigods because of their incapability. But the present emergency, the minister said, is not intended for such mercy or military etiquette. Now you should prepare to fight under any circumstance. Thus they advised Kansa to give up the traditional etiquette in fighting and chastise the enemy at any cost. And what is the enemy? Little babies. Let's kill all the babies 10 days or less. They cannot even put up any fight. But no, this is demonic mentality. King Sher Shurer Vibudher Adsang Vikathane Rahojushahim Kim Harina Shambhuna Vavanokasa Kimendrana Alpa Viryena Brahmana Vatapasyata. The demigods boast uselessly while away from the battlefield. Only when there is no fighting can they show their prowess. Therefore, from such demigods, we have nothing to fear. As for Lord Vishnu, he is in seclusion in the core of the hearts of the yogis. So Vishnu is not going to come out and fight. As for Lord Shiva, he has gone to the forest. And as for Lord Brahma, he is always engaged in austerities and meditation. The other demigods, headed by Indra, are devoid of prowess. Therefore, you have nothing to fear. Kansa's ministers told Kansa that all the exalted demigods had fled in fear of him. One had gone to the forest, one to the core of the heart, and one to engage in tapasya. Thus you can be free from all fear of the demigods. They said, just prepare to fight. This is demonic, completely demonic mentality. Tathapi deva sapatnya naupekshya iti manmahe tatastan moola khanane neyungshayasva Mananuvratan. Nonetheless, because of their enmity, our opinion is that demigods should not be neglected. Therefore, to uproot them completely, engage us in fighting with them, for we are ready to follow you. According to moral instructions, one should not neglect to extinguish fire completely, treat diseases completely, and clear debts completely. Otherwise, they will increase and later be difficult to stop. Therefore, the ministers advise Kansa to uproot his enemies completely. Yatha mayo ange samupekshito nrebher na shakyate rud padash chikitsatum yathendriya gram upekshitas tatha repur mahan baddha balo na chalyate. As a disease, if initially neglected, becomes acute and impossible to cure, or as a senses, if not controlled at first, are impossible to control later. An enemy, if neglected in the beginning, later becomes insurmountable. So when the enemy is weak, kill him, finish him off. Moolam hi Vishnu Devana, Yatra Dharma Sanatana, Tasya cha Brahma Go Vipras, Tapo Yagya Sadakshina. The foundation of all the demigods is Lord Vishnu, who lives and is worshipped wherever there are religious principles, traditional culture, the Vedas, cows, Brahmins, austerities, and sacrifices with proper remuneration. Here is a description of Sanatana Dharma, eternal religious principles, which must include Brahminical culture, Brahmins, sacrifices, and religion. These principles establish the kingdom of Vishnu. Without the kingdom of Vishnu, the kingdom of God, no one can be happy. Nata vidu svarthagatem hi Vishnu. In this demoniac civilization, people unfortunately do not understand that the self-interest of human society lies in Vishnu. Thus, they are involved in a hopeless hope. People want to be happy without God consciousness or Krishna consciousness because they're led by blind leaders who led human society to chaos. The Asuric adherents of Kansa wanted to disrupt the traditional condition of human happiness and thus defeat Devatas, the demigods, devotees and the demigods. Unless the devotees and demigods predominate, the Asuras will increase and human society will be in a chaotic condition. So in Kali Yuga, both the tendencies, devotional, divine, and demoniac, they both live in us, in the same body. So we have to see which tendency, which inclination we are feeding more, or we are making more strong. So if divine tendencies predominate, then Asuric tendencies will go down and the soul or the person will be very happy, will be in bliss. Tasmat sarvatmana rajan brahmanan brahmavadina tapasvino yagya shilan gascha hanmo haviruddha. O king, we who are your adherents in all respects shall therefore kill the Vedic Brahmins, the persons engaged in offering sacrifices and performing austerities, and the cows that supply milk from which is obtained clarified butter, an ingredient of sacrifice. So their proposal was, let's kill the Brahmins, cows, so no more sacrifice, no more pleasing Vishnus, no more pleasing demigods, and demigods will defeat and will kill all the children. And that's it. We'll enjoy forever. Good plan they had. Vipra gavascha vedascha tapah satyam damah shama shraddha daya titikshacha kritvascha haristanu. The Brahmins, the cows, the Vedic knowledge, austerity, truthfulness, control of the mind and senses, faith, mercy, tolerance, and sacrifice are the different parts of the body of Lord Vishnu. And they are the paraphernalia for a godly civilization. So let's just destroy them all. When we offer our obeisances to the personality of Godhead, we say, Namo Brahmana Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo. When Krishna comes to establish real perfection in the social order, he personally gives protection to the cows and the Brahmins. This is his first interest, because without protection of the Brahmins and the cows, there can be no human civilization and no question of happy, peaceful life. Asuras, therefore, are always interested in killing the Brahmins and the cows. Especially in this age, Kali Yuga, cows are being killed all over the world. And as soon as there is a movement to establish Brahminical civilization, people in general rebel. Does it regard the Krishna consciousness movement as a form of brainwashing? How can such envious persons be happy in their godless civilization? The Supreme Personality of Godhead punishes them by keeping them in darkness, birth after birth, and pushing them lower and lower into wretched conditions of hellish life. The Krishna consciousness movement has started a Brahminical civilization, but especially when it is introduced in the Western countries, the Asuras try to impede it in many ways, not just in Western countries, even in India. Nonetheless, we must push forward this movement tolerantly for the benefit of human society. So this is what Asura's program is. Kill the Brahmins, kill the cows, stop the sacrifices, and then when there is mode of passion and ignorance, then we'll be happy. But passion and ignorance doesn't keep anybody happy. Only goodness and beyond goodness can make one happy, really happy. So that's why this knowledge is very, very important. How to implement this knowledge is also what Prabhupada showed us. So we follow that, but we can see the program of the demons, what they wanted. So anyway, we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, as you give example, like Kansa, Hiranyakashipu also knows the Atma Tattva and the correct philosophy. So, Prabhuji, as part of Leela, they go against God, or they know all these things but they don't want to follow?
We can say as part of Leela, but this is what demonic tendencies are. Even Ravan, he knew the Vedas, but he didn't follow. So what is the point in knowing or learning the Vedas or scriptures if you don't follow? So they could be part of Krishna's pastime, but even in the end, Kansa does not get the same liberation as devotees do. So Krishna clearly tells that become my devotee. Don't become an asura and still have the knowledge and still think you'll be okay. No.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Chalo, I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.